Here's another of the hottest selling appliances on the market today, the food processor. Over 2 million of them will be sold this year alone. The question is, do you have to be a gourmet chef to need one in your kitchen? The bionic speed of a food processor does take a little getting used to. After all, you can mince an onion in 4 seconds flat. The developer of the home food processor, a man named Carl Sondheimer, says they save 20% of the time normally spent in the kitchen. And naturally, if you're cooking for a house full of relatives, speed can be of the essence. But what if you're only cooking for 1 or 2 people? Do you really need all that speed and efficiency? Well, to find out everything you always wanted to know about food processors, here's Brenda.
Thanks, Larry. Julia Child calls the food processor the most important invention since the first electric mixer. Craig Claiborne, food editor for the New York Times, ranks it right up there with the invention of the printing press, the cotton gin, and Kleenex. The object of all this adulation is a machine that will slice, mince, grind, mix, shred, chop, and puree any number of foods in a matter of a few paltry seconds. For sheer speed and proficiency, they can't be beat. This was the first food processor on the market, the Cuisinart. It first appeared in 1973 and got a very chilly reception. After all, who would want to pay over $200 for what looks like a super blender with a foreign name? But in 1975, the Cuisinart was discovered by gourmets and took off like a bullet. Now there are about a dozen different brand names on the market, and you can pick up some of them on sale for as little as $40 or $50. The cheapest Cuisinart still sells for around $160, and the deluxe model, $225. So, what's the difference? Will the expensive models do things the cheaper ones won't? To find out, I visited the Culinary Arts Cooking School. With the help of Bonnie Rappaport and Ann Barry, proprietors of the school, we decided to do some tests of several different models. We used 3 machines, a GE, selling for about $50, a Mighty Chef, which sells for under $100, and a plastic-based Cuisinart costing $160. Before the test, I asked them to show me how a food processor works.
Tell me, basically, how does a food processor work?
Basically, they all operate in the same way. They all have a base and a motor. On top of that motor or in front of it, you have a removable plastic container where the food goes. You also have 4 general blades that come with each machine. You have a shredder, a slicer, a plastic blade for simply blending or mixing, and a steel blade for chopping or dicing. Depending on what food you're processing, you either put your blade in and then your food, or you put your disc in and then push the food through with this little pusher attachment. The only thing that you have to be careful about is the machines have 1 speed, on or off, so that you have to be in control. You have to operate it according to that, keeping that in mind.
Well, could a machine be bad or good depending on who the operator
If you're
is?
a bad operator, you might overprocess the food, and it's your fault, not the machine.
It's like a knife. It's that basic of a tool. Have to learn how to use it.
Now for our test.
First, we each processed peanuts to make peanut butter. The processing time was 45 seconds.
I have peanut butter maybe 10 seconds after yours.
Do you call this peanut butter?
Chunky peanut butter.
Yes, let's take a look at it on the plate.
So the General Electric did it the fastest, although the noisiest, and the best. The Mighty Chef, maybe 10 seconds after the General Electric, created the peanut butter, which again could be a little finer, I think, in consistency. And the Cuisinarts probably needed 20 or 30 more seconds in all.
Right.
Next, we processed meat to make hamburger. The processing time was 7 or 8 seconds, and the results?
These look just about similar. These might be a little larger, the pieces, but they look very, very
I think
similar.
ours is finer.
I only had to turn mine on and off once, and it did it. That didn't do
This
it.
didn't do it at all. Plus, I had to hold on for dear life to this machine. It was jumping all over the place, and I guess being the least expensive, it is the lightest.
This didn't jump at all. This was fine and
ran
stable.
very smooth
And
as well.
this is perfect.
So I guess this would become hamburger, but it would take a little while longer for that to happen on your least expensive
The machines
General
really do
Electric.
vary then
They
in terms of what
certainly
you're
do.
processing,
Surely do.
because
That was
it was
the
the
best
fastest
on
with the
peanut
peanut butter. Now think comparatively and the price of the Cuisinart. Does the higher price justify the job done?
Well, it really depends on how much money you have to spend and how much cooking you have to do. I personally, who cook a whole lot, I'm a cooking teacher. Here at school we have this, we've had it since the very beginning, and we're very happy with it. We have no complaints. However, if you just have a blender, a regular wearing blender or whatever, and it runs out on you, I think you're going to be much happier with a General Electric, which maybe costs you $20 more, because it will do some things that your blender would not do, such as grating cheese, chopping hamburgers, chopping an onion. So I think it does justify.
Since you're talking about blenders, I was wondering, would this machine then replace my blender and mixer? Probably my blender, not my mixer, or what?
Well, what the food processor is a super heavy-duty blender. So yes, it will do everything that your blender will do faster and better. And again, it will do more things than your blender can do. What it will not do is incorporate air into something, such as making whipped cream out of heavy cream or making a meringue out of egg whites. So for this, you would need to have an electric mixer in your kitchen to complement your food processor.
Okay, my next question is that this is basically what you might consider a luxury item. I mean, how essential is a food processor to a kitchen? A lot of people have told me that unless you do certain types of cooking or you cook for large numbers, that you really don't get that much use out of it.
Well, I think that you find if you are a housewife who has to get 3 meals on the table every day, there are certain little chores that you've got to do all the time, like maybe making breadcrumbs, making tuna salad or egg salad for the kids, grating cheese. These are all boring, trivial little tasks that you've got to do, and if you do them yourself, they're going to take a little longer, and you may as well have the machine do it for you. It doesn't mind, and it's going to give you some more time for yourself.
So if you're not willing to spend $160 for the Cuisinart, I think we've determined here that there are other food processors who do acceptable jobs, surprisingly.
If we are to survive in this technological world, we should probably use all the labor and time-saving devices we can find.